Hey, we're here with Jim Harshaw. Jim's a All-American wrestler from Virginia, and now he's been on, TEDx talks. He's been a speaker with some of the top, most successful people in industries, from sports to leadership to military. And Jim, thanks for your time here. Just want to ask you how you got into this success through failure journey that you're on.
They say you teach what you need, and I needed to hear this message. So the way that this came about was I was driving to work one day. I was working at the University of Virginia as a major gift fundraiser after my coaching career, and I was a assistant coach at Virginia, head coach at Slippery Rock, as you know, and then got into business. Had a couple of businesses. One was successful, and one failed, and then got back into athletics as a major gift fundraiser, which was a great job. But I'm driving to work one day and I hear this ad on the radio that says, Charlottesville is hosting a TEDx event, the annual TEDx event. It's one of the biggest, it's in the top 1% of all biggest TEDx events in the world. We're looking for one community speaker to speak on something, that we can put on the main stage with all these other great speakers we have from all around the world. And I'm like, oh man, it would be so cool to apply for this. But the deadline was like that evening. I'm pulling into work at like 8 o'clock, and the deadline's like 4 or 5 o'clock that afternoon or that evening. I'm like, oh man, I would love to do that. But today's one of those days where I got a million things to do. I'm never going to have time to submit my application, which is essentially a 2-minute video. And about 3 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, I can't pass this opportunity up. I got to submit my application to try to get this thing. Went out to my car, held up a phone in front of my face, and talked about my journey as a wrestler, which was mostly failure, which ended up in success. And submitted that application, got onto, I got selected as one of 25 of the 60 some applicants to do sort of a small group talk in front of a live audience. And then the audience would choose one speaker, so audience vote. And I would get to speak on the main stage at this big TEDx event in Charlottesville. And so that's what happened. I got to do the open mic night. I won. Everybody voted, enough people voted for me. I won. I got to speak about, the title of my talk was Why I Teach My Children to Fail, which is largely about my wrestling career, which, McGov, my freshman year in college, I qualified for the national championships, wanted to be an All-American, but I failed. Sophomore year, again, qualified for nationals, failed to get on the podium. Junior year, pretty much a repeat of the prior 2 years, which was getting to the nationals championships. And, my season ending with me in the locker room, with my face buried in a towel in tears, like wondering why I can't do this. Like, what's wrong with me? Am I not good enough? Am I not smart enough? Am I not capable enough? Like, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I'm just not supposed to succeed at that level. And, but I had one more season to go for it, one more year. I had my senior year, and I dedicated my off season to trying to figure out what I was missing. Went everywhere I could. I went to every single wrestling camp I could, worked the George Mason camp. You might've been at Mason at that time. Worked George Mason. I worked the Naval Academy camp, went to Clarion, went to University of Virginia camp. I worked every single camp I could. I went out to the Olympic Training Center just to get around the best guys I could be around, these coaches they're bringing into the camps, and, the Olympic gold medalists and guys like you. And I just wanted to be around champions so I could figure out what I'm missing. But I never figured it out. And come into my senior season, and I'm thinking to myself, it's the night before the West Virginia Open my senior year. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Morgantown, West Virginia, going, oh my gosh, I never figured it out. I never figured out the magic thing that I'm missing, and so I just gave up. I gave up on the goal at that moment. I said, listen, I still want to get on the podium. I still want to win a national championship, but I give up. I said, all I can do is all I can do, and the rest is in God's hands. And just decided I was going to wrestle, give the sport every ounce of energy, every ounce of everything that I had. And if that was enough, great. If it wasn't enough, I had to be okay with that. And that's how I wrestled my entire senior season. I put this fear of failure down, and it allowed me to actually show up as my fullest self on the mat. I stopped worrying about losing, and I only worried about competing to my maximum potential and going out and to just enjoy the battle, enjoy the grind, enjoy the brawl. And that turned out to be fun, and it got me onto the podium my senior year. Made it to the All-American round and had to wrestle the number 4 ranked guy in the country on the number 1 ranked team in the country, Minnesota, and I got my hand raised. So that was my journey from failure to success. Never got on the podium at the high school state championships, but it was guys like you who had a big impact on me, who helped me figure it out in college, and finally, finally find success despite failure, or maybe because of failure.
Yeah, I think I was at that national tournament, right? But I had left that year. I was at University of Virginia, coach your junior year, then left. And I remember it was really hard to leave because there were so many good people like you, Steve Garland, Alex Key, Fenstermaker, but just Charlie Branch, all that group. But I left for Johnny Curtis to train with him. He was a weight class above me at Georgia Mace, took a pay
Yep.
cut. But I always thought you guys had that. There was a lot of synergy. Garland's now the head coach, but sometimes, people in your life, you look back at those positive people in your life that are successful, and there's a lot of similarities. You had a lot of passion, a lot of energy, a high work ethic capacity, workload capacity, a big dedication, and you just had like a stubborn, like you just keep going, a stubbornness, willingness to dedicate. But I always loved being around you guys, and I love staying around, connected with you and those guys, Alex and Stevie and you. And I think there's something there that I think probably you see, right, and some of the successful business leaders that you see similar things, right, same kind of traits, but that you have from wrestling. Is that kind of what you found when you've got into the business world?
Yeah. So, I want to share. I want to address that by talking about a specific moment in time that was really transformational for me. That you see in business leaders, you see this shift in mindset that I was able to make. That yeah, you see in successful people in anything, and so I remember I was at the national championships. It was '97, Northern Iowa, and it was Gable's last year, and you were the assistant coach, our assistant coach that year, and I win the first round. And second round, I draw some random nobody by the name of Lincoln McElravy.
That's right.
So, he's three-time finalist, two-time champ at that point, and number one ranked guy in the country, undefeated, and I'm a sophomore, no business being on the mat with him, but
But that's
but
not the case. That's not. See, I think I wrestled Iowa, and I think Iowa had that mystique. It was winning those titles, and I came over out the East because I saw you, PA, all these PA guys, and Lakeek, and I'm like, man, you guys got the ability, and you're doing the work, and just kind of getting you to believe. But I always believed that you guys could beat those guys. I know you thought I was crazy, but I always believed in you guys.
So this is the point. Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. So for the listener, this is Jon is the kind of person you need in your corner. You have to find your Jon McGovern. I had my Jon McGovern. You have to find yours, because here's what happened in that moment. I'm standing on the mat, at edge of the mat, warming up, ready to wrestle Lincoln McElravy. And Jon, I don't know if you remember this or not, but you convinced me I was going to beat Lincoln McElravy. I absolutely convinced
I
me.
believed it. Yeah,
You believed it, and you believed it. I'm like, well, this guy's crazy enough to believe it. I'm going to believe it too. And I went out there and I got my butt whooped. But here's the catch. Everybody wants a happy ending to that story. Jim goes out and David versus Goliath. Well, Goliath won in that one, right? So, but here's the catch. My chances of beating Lincoln McElravy were about 1 in 1,000, but you changed those to about 1 in 100. Okay. Or maybe some better number than that. But you 10x'd my chances of winning that match by believing. I simply had to believe. And by believing, it gave me a shot. Right? It gave me a chance. And I took
you
that.
guys built that guy up.
Yeah,
I
you build
remember
these people up, right?
I saw Mac Ribby. I see him in the room, and he'd go. Sometimes the guy looked like he scored 49 takedowns. At Lincoln, the guy I think he goes, I don't care. I just want to make sure I get one more, 50 takedowns. And so I
Yeah.
saw where he could be taken down, and
Yeah.
he was the best. I mean, I love Lincoln McRae, but I love you too. When I'm coaching you, I know this guy can be taken down. And
Yeah.
I know you can be taken down too, and it's who can get one more than the other guy. I just think we just got to get one more than this guy.
So if you, right, that's right. So you had that knowledge, you had that wisdom. I didn't believe in myself. You did. And it didn't bring victory in that situation, but it brought a change of mindset that I then carried into my next match. And I'd never beat anybody ranked in the country. And I had to wrestle the 6th ranked guy from Lehigh. And I beat him and I upset him. right? I was not seeded, I was not ranked, I was not seeded, but I won the match against the next guy, right? The next round, I beat the sixth ranked guy in the country. And that was a moment for me where I understood, like, oh, wait a second. If you actually believe in yourself, despite evidence, then you actually have a shot. You have a chance, and you will give yourself a better shot to win more and to perform at a higher level. And so that was a pivotal point for me, and it was a big moment for me that came from that loss, but it was that mindset shift. And so for the listener, you have to find that person, and if you don't have that person, you have to be that person for yourself. And yeah, you see this in business. You look at successful people, and they believe despite the evidence. Right? They believe that they have a shot, that they can do this, that they have a chance. And oftentimes, listen, they have a list of failures in their background. And, my podcast is called Success Through Failure. And, I talk to these world-class performers, like you said, like, Olympic gold medalists, Navy SEALs, CEOs, New York Times bestselling authors. And we talk about their success and their tactics, but I also say, tell me about a time when you failed, and tell me about how failure played a role in your journey. And they they have failed more than the average person. They've failed more than the average person, not less, but more than the average person. And they're willing to keep going, to keep trying, to try one more time every time. And that is what separates the average from the good and the good from the great.
Yeah, exactly. And also knowing that you don't have to be the best in everything. You just have to find out what works for you and make yourself the best at it. And so, when you beat the Lehigh guy or then you go be an All-American, I'm so happy for you because I think it made you believe that the gifts that you had were more than enough to produce the results that you wanted. Same thing in business. That there's certain gifts that you bring that you have in the business world. You don't have everything everybody else has, but you can maximize them. And then I like to think about, like, as a build a college team or even just being the best version of yourself, surrounding yourself with people that are. When I was at Virginia, you guys brought out the best coach, and now that I have Dennis Hall here, three-time Olympian, now we got Barry Davis, Rulon Gardner, the Kuntz brothers on the world team, and it's funny, you bring in athletes that are, and not necessarily the highest. They don't have to be the best talented, but just dedicated, passionate, and all those things you had at UVA, and eventually success follows. So those things just are the traits of success. It doesn't mean they won't find failure along the way. It's just they're going to be dedicated along to stubborn enough to never give up and keep persistent. And that's what I see you doing with Success Through Failure, teaching these kids, because we were just talking, we had a wrestling practice today, is like, it's not, a one practice plan to make the Olympics. A lot of it is a 4-year plan to an 8-year plan. And it's a long-term plan with some failure along the way for growth. And
Yeah.
so it's great that you're teaching that. That's what makes, people reach the next levels, and you keep going through your whole life. That, how have you translated that to your family life as a dad, and you're doing fundraising, and
Yeah.
how have you done that with balance? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. So,
Probably not now.
um, balance is the key word there. And, you know, when you're wrestling, when you're in a competitive environment, there are certain things that are built around. There's a certain infrastructure around you that propels you to success, right? So first of all, there's a clear plan, right? I didn't have to plan when the national championships were. Somebody else put that on the calendar. I didn't have to plan the schedule the whole season. Somebody else, I didn't plan to have to figure out when I was going to go practice. You and the other coaches told me when to show up. And and so there's this infrastructure there. There's an environment, there's people, there's nutritionists, there's sports psychologists and athletic trainers and strength and conditioning coaches. Like, this is all around you. And you get out into the real world. And this is part of my coaching program. I coach motivated professionals. That's what I do. I coach motivated people, professionals in the real world to show up as their best selves, find balance, figure out what's next for themselves, and advance in their careers and advance in their lives. And that doesn't just mean in their careers. Like, this single-minded focus that we had as athletes is, it was critical. But now, you're at a stage of your life, as am I, where there's more at stake than just competition, right? There's our families, right? Our families and our relationships. There's our own health and wellness. And then there's also our career and our success that we want to have in all of these areas of our lives. So, we have to create this environment where we can succeed in all of these areas. Otherwise, we get out of balance, right? We focus on one thing too much in our relationships, or our health goes down the tubes, or we focus, just on our health and fitness, and you're not in our relationship and not in our business, then those things suffer. So we have to have very clearly defined goals. Like, we have to have a clear vision for our lives. Like, again, wrestling, the vision, very clear, top of the podium. I know it's very black and white. I know what it looks like. In the real world, like, what's it look like? Because there's thousands of options of what that could look like. You have to define what that will look like for you. And that's the first step of we have a coaching program, a framework we walk people through. Step one, define the vision. We walk with people through help them define that vision, because that's a hard thing to do. Step two is create goals that align with that vision, health goals, relationship goals, and of course, career and business goals. That's the second step. And we walk with you through creating the goal and creating a plan to achieve that goal. And we help you track that goal, like metrics, and in business they call them OKRs, objectives and key results, or KPIs, key performance indicators. Like, we're tracking those month to month to help you get from where you're at to where you want to go in your life, that vision. So that's the second part. First part is vision. Second part is align goals. The third part is what I talked about, the environment of excellence. Who are the people I need to surround myself with? I want to be better at, as an entrepreneur, I got to get around other successful entrepreneurs. I got to hire a coach, which I have a business coach, and I pay money out of my own pocket to help me, because I can't do it on my own, right? Couldn't do it on my own as a wrestler. I needed coaches then. I need coaches now. You have to have coaches. You have to have people around you. You have to have, it might be a marriage therapist for your marriage. It might be a health coach, or a group of people who you work out with. You have to create these environments where you can succeed. Otherwise, you're going to drift back to the default, or drift back to your default, or the average, the mediocre. None of us want to be average, right? So put yourself around people who can either push you or help you get to your next level. So, and then the fourth and final step is you have to actually have a plan to follow through. You can't just put all this in place, create goals, a vision and goals and environment of excellence, and go, okay, I'm going to sit back and just show up at work and check emails all day like I normally do. No, that doesn't get you anywhere. That
Yeah.
keeps you at status quo. You have to have a plan to follow through. Back when I was wrestling and you were wrestling, it's like, you lose a match on a Friday night and you're sitting over in the corner feeling sorry for yourself. Coach comes over and he's like, hey, Jim, I'll see you tomorrow morning in the weight room, 8 a.m. Be there. Like it or not, you're feeling sorry for yourself. Like, there's a plan to follow through when things go wrong, when you go off course. Like, it's going to happen in life. Your kids get sick, car breaks down, global pandemic happens. You have to have a plan. So this is a framework that I learned from you and through others wrestling. That is the framework for me, how we coach motivated professionals.
Yeah. And in wrestling, you only get seven, like in a college, 7 minutes. So every second counts. And really, I think if like your life, it's only got so much time, and make the most of it. And then even when you're with your family, don't rush it. Just be in the moment. When you're with your son or someone in need,
Yeah.
if you meet another kid that needs you, there's families or people that need you, or if you got to coach a kid that's in need, you have to bring out that bigger leader in yourself and serve. And so I think sometimes those opportunities, because I've kind of put down just Jesus is my coach. Jesus, God is my coach. Like, if I'm like Jonah and the whale, if you're called to go serve somebody and you don't want to do it, that's probably what you should be doing. And then sometimes you got to fill your cup up around those other passionate leaders and different people as you go out and serve. And so it's not to stay there and get your cup filled, is to go out and serve others. And then that gives you the motivation and passion to want to fill it back up and serve and have a purpose. So I think, doing both of those is the yin and yang of life. Like, and kind of that, you're almost like a wrestler's always never really completely comfortable. He's either intermittent faster, or he's training so hard, he's in his high inflammation. He's only rarely in his highest ideal peak state. But he's always able to perform at a pretty high level, whether or not what he feels like. And I think that's also key. Whether he's sleep deprived, he hasn't had food for 3 days. He's just motivated because he's got to serve these. He's got a goal, a mission higher than himself, whether it's his family or kids. And I think, that's the stuff that I think wrestlers bring to a table that other people can recognize, is these guys can endure tough times and act like they're comfortable.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely. I mean,
So
Wrestlers have an advantage in that sense for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And then you give them a mission behind it, and that's
That's what
why.
I think they're missing sometimes when they leave wrestling. They're combat soldiers, and then they go on these family lives, and they're just missing the adrenaline rush of wrestling. So they jump into MMA when it's like you might have a greater purpose in your community as a coach or as a parent. There's thousands of people that you could serve and mentor that could give you a really sense of fulfillment that you thought you needed to achieve, get through achievement.
Yep, you got it, man. That I mean, literally, that is why people come to us. And when I say us, I mean the Harshaw Group. My business is like for the coaching is like they're going, man, Jim. Like I feel like there's more to life. You know, I've got the degrees and the maybe the marriage and the kids and the job and the car and the house. I've checked all these boxes and like kind of like now what? You know, it's like
Yeah, you're like having a bunch of money in a nice house doesn't do it.
no, it doesn't do it. Doesn't do it. That's the
Yeah,
definition
it's
of my client. Successful and going like, now what? You
yeah,
know?
purposes does it. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Purpose
keep
and
doing you, Jim. Do you keep in touch with some of those, UVA wrestlers, and who are some of the big impactors in your, wrestling career? You know, obviously, you've had a successful wrestling career that translates to successful life, and I think that's something that we really want to help others do, and that's what you do. And other wrestlers, if they're struggling with that kind of thing, they can reach out to you. But who are some of the people that have impacted you that you stay in touch with at UVA or high school and college?
yeah. Well, I would say Steve Garland's the biggest one. Steve's, as you mentioned, the head wrestling coach at UVA, is national runner up in 2000. And, um, but he's had a big impact on my life. I mean, I gave a sermon at my church just last weekend, first time ever. And, I mentioned Steve, actually, I mentioned you as well in that sermon as people who had a big impact on my life. And, so I stay in touch with Steve, Ryan Gumlock, who was a
Yep.
2 or 3 time third placer in Pennsylvania, wrestled for Northampton, superstar high school wrestler, good friend. So actually got together with, there's 4 of us got together, Johnny Johnson, Ryan Gumlock, and Kevin Sullivan. All of us had breakfast together. Kevin Sullivan came into town from out of town. So we all got breakfast at Bodo's this morning. So it's like, that's another
Wow.
thing that
That's fulfilling. That's
I drove.
fulfilling.
That's it. That's exactly. I was driving home thinking, my goodness, I am so grateful for this sport, for the brotherhood that we have, because I know that if anything ever went down in my life, those guys have my back, big
Yeah,
time.
one hundred
It's
percent. Yeah. Honestly, Jim, my older brother, is All American, and he felt like he fell short, and sometimes he doesn't go to those reunions with his college buddies. And this weekend, we're trying to have him go to one of to get to know all, because we all went to the same college. And I said, you'll like it, the relationships. And I think sometimes in wrestling, we don't realize we don't have to feel judgment. We can
yeah,
feel the relationship. Like guys grew, they're past that. They're worrying about their own kids, and what they learned in that is the fuel for their next journey in life. Like it's just the last match. They don't have to. I think some guys avoid those connections when sometimes those are huge blessings, because these are
oh,
guys that their blood's, what they're about,
yeah,
and even as a coach with Gumlock and those guys, they might feel like, well, I didn't, because I've had it even at University of Butte where some of my guys, I can tell like they feel like, I had one say it the other day, well, I didn't lead the team and maybe I wasn't doing the right things, and I'm like, hey, I've been given grace by Jesus. I mean,
amen.
you're given grace. We're given the best we can with information at the time we have it. We grow and mature as we get older, I love you through life. This is beyond the mat. That relationships afterwards, and those are some of the most fulfilling things that I think sometimes it's just like the business owner coaches. We don't miss out on fulfilling your and the ones that you coach with that relationship, because that really is almost the best. That is the best
That's
part
the
of it.
best, man.
Yeah. So
That's the part of it. I mean, the four guys of
you're
us.
all running up a hill. You're always trying to get better because you're never enough. There's always
You're never
another hill
enough.
to climb.
I
There's always
talked about
another
my
hill.
sermon over the weekend last week. It was like, you're never enough. Like I never felt like I was enough. I still don't feel like I'm enough sometimes
You're
until
enough for other teammates. You're loved by Jesus, but there's
I love
always
my
another
Jesus.
hill. There's more to do.
Yep, that's right.
But
All 4 of us guys that had breakfast this morning, we all had different endings to our careers, completely different endings to our careers, and we all started in very different places, and we ended in very different places. But nobody cares anymore. All we care about is like, how's your family? How you doing? When are we getting
yeah,
together next? Like, the brotherhood. And
Yeah, and
and
honestly, how
yeah,
those guys, they're still in their last chapters of their life aren't even close to being written.
yeah,
So why not finish the book good? And if some of those guys become leaders in their community, I've even started. We should have a wrestling party that we elect a wrestler as, and we say term limits, limit pack money, and just wrestlers that are just going to be warriors for truth. And even if you disagree, at least you know what they said is what they meant, and there's honor, integrity. But wrestlers that bring that to their community, whether it's churches or coaches or teachers, police officers, whatever, just that their best is ahead of them. And you do that well, Jim. And it's great to hear you're with your friends. And I tell you, when I look at the positive people, those guys at UVA, you guys are. Whenever I just think about it, even I don't know what it is, but I just go back to some of the experiences we had there because there was so much, I don't know, passion and dedication, and I mean that team was close. You guys were a close bunch of guys, so it was a lot of fun, and it's
yeah.
great to hear you guys are staying together. So, um, anything else you want to add before we go?
I think that's it, man. I mean,
All right.
it's been a long journey, and hey, look at Dennis Hall. I get
Yeah,
Olympic
yeah,
medalists walking in the door here. Just
yeah.
it's how you roll. So, hey,
Actually,
Dennis, Jim
we do
Harshaw.
we do Bible study in the morning, and this morning he shared a little bit. We share about just what's going on in their life daily, and that's one thing about coaching is that's the fulfilling part is just knowing, hey, what's going on in your life, whether it's family members and illnesses, and staying connected. 'Cause sometimes we get all caught up in X's and O's that we forget it's really about the people, and that's why I love having Dennis here. Is
Yeah.
he knows X's and O's, but he really loves
Yep.
people, and so it makes it great. So anyway,
Yeah, if I was going to wrap up and say one point, it's that it's about people. It's about putting yourself around the right people, getting yourself around the right people. And if you don't have the right people in your life, find them on podcasts, find them on books, and you'll start attracting those people into your life. But bring those people into your life one way or the other.
yep, and thumbs up for Jim. Great having you on, and we'll stay in touch and keep doing what you do. Keep fighting a good fight.
Likewise, McGov, good seeing you.
You too. See you, Jim.